I don't know what to say. I made my own mistakes. All right, Norm Miller and Berg giving up their incel theory for Columbia County study. Now, this comes back from when they wanted to make me George Young, and that was going to be a joke for Dennis Varick going after the biggest weed dealer in all of Oregon, you know, and using JC and Dan Harcourt and the boys to take me down, for what it's worth, right, Dennis Varick, You ever hear Liam Gallagher just play by himself, Not Oasis, but just Liam Gallagher, for what it's worth, bud. Either way, with me graduating up from being George Young to the ecstasy dealing that Dan Harcourt and me got accused of at Roadrunner, so Varick wants to play El Chapo. You could find Norm Miller's theory of with John Berg, me being Charlie Manson. Why? Because that not only comes into if I ever play music, something that Norm Miller feels inadequate to do, even as a police chief, and he can't match up to Ralph Painter, and he can't match up to Doug Grison either. So anything that makes his monster truck driving ass feel fucking inadequate, he has to make fun of. But really, Charlie Manson would be the first incel with his cult. Then you would have Michael O'Shea with John Berg saying they could get immunity for this study, saying I'm like Timothy McVeigh, using the Portland Christmas tree bombing so they could pretend that they're investigating stuff with CCMH for the Hillsborough Probation Department bombing. You would find that Timothy McVeigh will be accused of being an incel too. So through the study that Columbia County is conducting with Columbia County forensic psychologist Dale Diversion lady Holly Reverman, you would find that they're trying to set up what looks like a study to study celibate people and why they're in celibate and what causes them to Call of Duty do mass town center shootings and college shootings. You would find that these jokes are derived from Timothy McVeigh actually being an incel and through Charles Manson being what they would call an incel, but he obviously was not. But Timothy McVeigh, Michael O'Shea would think he has a good testimony and good presentation for how that was a lot like Elliot Rogers. And then you would move on to them moving on to the Red theory, that Red was an incel and that Daniel Butts was an incel. Then that falling through, just like the people they human trafficked. Ian Holtz, Katie Pancratz, Haley Pancratz, Mikey Orr, Dan Harcourt, the girls, Aaliyah, and whatever, and fucking all that shit, and everybody else that they're accused. They couldn't find an incel in there. So they tried to use Red and Daniel Butts to cover up their Charles Manson incel study, realizing that that's not an incel. But if you could find someone like Timothy McVeigh, i.e. Red, or i.e. Daniel Butts, you could match that to the Clackamas Town Center shooting. That will match to the Umpqua Community College shooting, thus giving the politicians the right to say why Columbia County has immunity with Roseburg Circuit Court District. It's because they're doing a study of incelibate people. So that's how those jokes are being used in a defense for criminology and the study of criminology by cops to better and advance themselves, and also prosecutors to advance their testimony. Why Brian Koberger is so important to all of this, and Idaho itself.